All right, mic check.
Mic check.
Should we do mic check first?
Check, check.
Are we on? Are we on now?
We're on. That's what that
Holy!
means.
Oh, the red light. I didn't even see the red light. Hey, everybody. Welcome to VOTO Radio.
Yes, indeed. Welcome to VOTO Radio. Now the new and improved VOTO TV.
Yeah, it's TV now. That's here we are on television.
I'm psychic surgeon and distance healer Tracy Lee.
Do we have an intro?
The intro will make its way back from radio to TV eventually, but
Okay.
now we're going to the non-musical introduction.
All right, we'll need a band. We're gonna have a band next time. A little like
The string quartet.
String quartet. That would be nice, right over there. Yeah. Welcome to our new set. Welcome to VOTO Radio. My name is Todd, Ronan, and I am a remote viewer. I've been doing remote viewing forever. And I'm joined with Tracy Lee, and we have special guests that may or may not be coming in later in the show. We'll find out.
Most likely he's not going to make an appearance tonight. He was involved in a car accident. Don't worry, he's all right.
Aw.
He's okay, but we're going to give him some time to rest and invite him to come back on the show next week or possibly the week after. But not to worry, because we have plenty of good material in store for you guys this evening as we discuss, as advertised, or we will present our expose of falsetto prophets.
Jared, I hope you feel better. I know that's a terrible car crash. I hope they're okay. I hope everything's all right. Everybody watching, send good energy out to Jared. Make sure that he feels better. I know that's stressful when that happens.
And I promised Jared I would do some healing work on him later this evening after all the excitement from VOTO TV dies down. So Jared, I'll be with you.
So why the crossover from, where were we on, we did a show last week, and that was on Blog Talk Radio?
It was on Blog Talk Radio, and we discussed the no-apocalypse of September 2015. And this discussion was fun, but there were technical issues. It wasn't broadcast live, and I'm pretty much done with Blog Talk Radio. And I would just like to say in the public eye that whoever is responsible for creating technology behind that wonderful program should be permanently barred from the tech industry and locked in a room that is dark, by the way, and never allowed to exit.
We don't like Blog Talk Radio, and we're able to pick up on that, but certainly that's the reason that we're here now live with you in our new set for VOTO TV. We're taking suggestions from our listening audience, our viewing audience. VOTO TV, VOTO Radio, now with more TV, VOTO Broadcast Studios.
VOTO Media. Well, we'll figure all that out anyways in the weeks to come. But we're also taking suggestions for what types of discussions you guys would like to hear, who you would like to see appear, and all types of things of those matters of those sorts. So if you have suggestions or feedback or criticism, if you don't like us, you love us, you hate us, you enjoyed us, you thoroughly enjoyed us, let us know. Contact us at voicesoftheomniverse@gmail.com.
And encourage us all around on Facebook to make people subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll post all the updates, all the show updates in future episodes, so look forward to that. So today we're talking about falsetto prophets. I like to say that there's a prophet, every prophet is out for his own prophet.
I like that, Todd. Every prophet is out for his own prophet.
The Bible talks about, I've got some quotes from the Bible.
Bring it on.
Matthew chapter 7, verse 15 to 23, and I'm paraphrasing because I've read the Bible, but I don't really remember it. Beware the sheep among sheep in sheep's clothing, and those who bring fig bars that do not bear fruit. So there's a lot of talk in the Bible about false prophets and about Jesus, the people that come after Jesus, and even in the Quran, in the seal of the prophets, it cites that anyone after Mohamed, peace be upon him, is certifiably a false prophet, that they're not real. Only Mohammed was the true prophet, and they talk about Jesus too.
Well, I think in the Bible it states that if you do not accept the Lord Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, that you will burn in hell for eternity. So there's that too.
Yeah, I haven't read the Bible in a long time. I do have the Cliff Notes of the Bible, and I encourage everyone to read that, or also buy the Lego Bible. That's also a fantastic representation of all of the death and destruction that is in there.
Or you could just be like me and not read the Bible and only know the verses that the people who think that I'm going to burn in hell have shared with me. Those are the only verses pretty much that I know.
So those two books, the Quran and the Bible, a lot of people have read them. You and I maybe have not. We may have disagreements about them. People out there may enjoy reading the Bible or just throwing verses at people. But over 2 billion people on Earth. There's 7.25 billion people, I think, roughly now. Over 2 billion of those people have read and really believe everything that's in those books.
Because it's the Word of God.
It's the Word of God. It's the Word of Allah. peace be upon him. And it's the word of the Holy Father, the Mother, and the Ghost, and the Holy Spirit.
Is that the Trinity that people talk about?
The Trinity, yes. The
Trinity,
Holy Ghost.
yes, the Trinity.
And so there's this belief structure that exists on our planet alone, and maybe other planets. We'll talk about other planets later, but that the core of belief is that you have to believe everything that's in this, or like you said before, you will die eternal damnation of hellfire. So why do you think that that sort of manipulation is the best way to have somebody worship an idea, something that's supposedly a Godhead figure that is ruled more out of fear than out of like personal love and trust?
Well, Todd, I think that people are urged to hedge their bets, or hedge their spiritual bets. So, in other words, you know, if I take Jesus into my heart and believe everything that's the Word of God in the Bible, if there is an afterlife and I've embraced this life while here on earth, then just in case it's real, I'm not going to the burning in hell part of it. So that's what hedging your bets is. Just in case this happens, I'm going to be prepared for it. So people are scared. I mean, people should stop and think about why they're believing something. Do you really, really, really believe that all of this is the Word of God, and that you know, truly that, you know, Jesus is your Lord and Savior and He died on the cross for you? Or are you just embracing these set of beliefs so that you don't face these set of punishments that might be upon you if you die and don't believe according to you?
You know what the most hit things are on the internet? What people like search for the most? People like us, people like you and I? Hidden. Secret. Everybody wants to know like the truth. Everybody wants to get like behind the magic curtain.
Like
right?
Sananda?
We'll talk about Sananda.
Sorry, that's like my favorite thing.
We'll talk about the Merlin. We'll talk about the Buddha and the Christ and all those things. But it seems like when you talk about like the occult or something esoteric or the scriptures, people want to know like, oh, I didn't know about that one. Maybe I can apply that to my life. Like there's going to be some jigsaw puzzle piece that somebody can take from that bit of religion and then apply to themselves to make themselves whole.
Right, and there's all types of literary tools that can be applied to portions of the Bible. There's foreshadowing, there's reference, there's metaphor, all these wonderful words that we're taught in our English class and literature classes. So there's always an interpretation, and whenever there's meaning, open interpretation and vague references made, people are always going to wonder what's the hidden secret and what does it really mean.
Yeah, we can uncover the actual secret about what things actually mean through remote viewing.
And that's what Todd does, remote viewing. And for those of you who tuned in last week, I made give Todd a little credibility about his remote viewing before he even knew that I was a healer and what I did. He remote viewed actually that my optimal job, he did a remote viewing session on Tracy Lee, optimal job position. He found that my optimal job was on Metatron's ship. How in the world would somebody come up with that? That's the most randomest thing ever. So it is legit.
It was a highly esoteric session that I did. Most people do not, I don't get elements of extraterrestrial crap in most people's optimal job trajectory. That is something that I do for people. I provide data for you. It's like, it's on my website, but we can talk about that another time. But I can, just by the unconscious mind, tapping into the unconscious by a methodical process, which is kind of like scrying, but not really. It's kind of like just tapping your intuitive mind to try and get the answers about anything.
Right. So Todd's reference point is remote viewing. My reference point is this gift of vision that I've been given to. I see a lot of holographic images of extraterrestrials, UFO ships, spirit animals, all these different projections that most people aren't able to see. I have this gift for seeing patterns and resonances that just come to me. And so my frame of reference is I've seen so many things that refute what people believe about Sananda, Osho, Merlin, like we want to talk about, and so many of these other biblical prophets and occult prophets. And so together we're going to try to prove to you today that not everything is as it seems or as they would like you to think.
So I also have memories that are far older than my life, my existence here on Earth right now, older than like written history. So written history we know is about 10,000 years old, and 10,000 BC terrestrial humans sort of fell into this cult worship like 50,000 years ago. And so old religions that have survived that have this so-called upper Paleolithic, I think that's what archaeologists refer to, are also represented by lion men. So they find these statues of people or hybrids that look like lions and that also are associated with the Venus. So even in pre-culture, like 50,000 years ago, we have the lion's head and we have Venus. And do those like archetypes sound like something that you could apply to the monotheistic religions over the course of Egypt, over the course of Sumeria, and over the course of like now Christianity and Muslim?
I think I got a little lost in all those big words and what you were saying, but along those lines, I would urge people to understand, because people are so forced into believing this highly dualistic nature of spirituality. And I think what Todd is trying to touch on here is the fact that some of the dark side forces that people look at as dark, it's just the same thing wearing the same mask across different religions. So people say the devil or Lucifer, but maybe in ancient Egypt that's Thoth, or what's that thing's name? Marduk.
Yes, Marduk. It's not Thoth. It's actually, for everyone out there watching, it's Tahuti.
Oh, Tahuti, excuse me.
Most people, yeah, I always pronounce it wrong. And then I got yelled at by somebody, a biblical scholar, who has a degree in patristics. He corrected me. So thank you for that, for making me a dick and correcting everybody who says thoughts. Because everyone knows who thought this, but nobody knows.
Yeah, so for those of y'all who might be wondering, no, this is not a light worker show, or we're not saying good against bad, or light versus dark. There are 50,000 million trillion shades of gray, not just light and dark, but across the shades of gray and towards the darker side and towards the lighter side, a lot of these entities, they wear different masks so they can get to different people and infiltrate all the different kind of factions, religious factions and hierarchies.
Yeah, and throughout history, we like to, throughout the course of this show, we like to peel back the layers, the onion layers of the history, to find out who those entities were and what they were doing, where they're from, what their motivations are, and you can sort of track them across time. And they have pivot points.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Time.
So from Baha'i to the Quakers to Congregationalists to Vikings and Muslim to Methodist, religion has, I think, hindered free thought and technology, at least over the last 4,000 years of recent memory, and a lot longer than that if we look back to 70,000 years ago. Tracy, it seems like everybody with a keyboard now has the power to incorporate being into a church and influence other people's thoughts.
Right. And so social media has played this huge role in spirituality and ascension, but I really like to refer to it as ascension stopping, because what happens, ascension stoppers, because instead of allowing people to, so the natural progression right now is there's a lot of people who are starting to realize that maybe I shouldn't just worship Jesus Christ, there's more out there than just Jesus. So they say, let's look into the spiritual realm. But then the first thing they come across is Lord Ashtar, Sananda. So I just like saying that. Sananda, which is basically alien Jesus. So instead of being able to ascend to a higher level of vibration, they face this impediment, which is, I'm just going to lean on the Ashtar Command crew and Lord Sananda, or alien Jesus, for all the answers. And when you look at one source for all the answers, then you have these blinders on and you can't see everything else that's out there. You're missing out on so much.
There have been some people that have requested that I sing again, and I don't want to sing Jesus Christ Superstar, but I was really motivated to do that when you were talking. So I'm not going to do that, but I appreciate you asking. Thank you. But you're right. I think a lot of light workers fall into that trap of, I need to find the answer outside of myself. So what is out there? What sort of channeled information has come to be in existence? And you brought up Ashtar. So for a minute, if I could explain to people, Lord Ashtar, you may have heard of Ashtar Command. The first, I think, representation of Ashtar came out in 1888 in Helen Blavatsky's writings. And she was like a big theosophist.
That long ago.
Yeah. So that word came out, but then it sort of laid stagnant for 70 years. And then the next sort of resurgence was from the George Van Tassel UFO sightings in New Mexico in the 1950s. So let me tell you, the truth behind George Van Tassel and the UFO sightings are not really as otherworldly as you would be led to believe. So George Van Tassel was a contactee. He got a lot of people hedged around him in the 1950s to go and see these UFOs, but he would always go on the other side of the mountain and then tell people that there were going to be UFOs coming, and then he would come back. And he had a broader connection to the US military than I think that he would like you to believe.
Oh.
So we look at the idea of sort of resurging this Ashtar idea. Lord Ashtar really came out about the 1950s as a splinter group from this George Van Tassel UFO cult.
So this is where it came from, because it's making a big splash right now in social media. And so I don't know all that history behind it. What I have read is a couple of pages that have been channeled through a very highly accredited board, Ashtar Command crew. And here's the gist of the message, Todd. It says, this is Sananda of the Ashtar Command crew. We are speaking to the 144,000 chosen souls who are meant to ascend into the fifth dimension. And it's your job as the chosen ones to help everybody else ascend into the higher dimension. Great changes are coming upon your planet. And in the midst of these changes, those who are not able to ascend will not be beamed up into the higher realms of the universe if they're not vibrating at a higher rate.
This is not a true channel message.
Oh, no. I read this. This is.
But you were not channeling.
No, I'm not channeling.
You felt the energy, but you were not channeling.
Yeah, I'm being comical because, so again, it's switching from this biblical Jesus to alien Jesus. So basically he's saying, look, if you guys don't all hop on board with the Ashtar Command crew and make the entire Earth vibrate at our frequency, there's only 144,000 souls that will be able to be beamed up when all the energy of the Earth and surrounding galaxies perish and just completely become obliterated. And all the third dimension is destroyed. And if you don't vibrate high enough, you will be destroyed along with it. But there are 144,000 chosen souls. Is this not the same type of fear mongering that Christians do? How is this any different?
I was on my way over here. I was driving over here in Austin traffic and listened to some Bible shows on the radio. We have a lot of those in Texas, radio biblical shows. And this message of preaching of fear,
Amen.
The message that they're preaching is really of fear and abomination, not really one of, hey, your heart and help your neighbor. And so even when you go into church, you take the body of Christ inside of you and you let that resonate out from you. You don't really get a sense of your own autonomy or your own inner godhood. And so it seems to me like the people or the powers that control religion, let's say in the Vatican for the purposes of our conversation, are manipulating 1 billion people. And then we have the people that are manipulating the other 1 billion people in the Allah Palace. How do we get the people on Facebook? How do we make them believe and give their souls over to us? Let's create this personhood of Ashtar Command. And let's say that you must channel this information. And when you channel that information, that sort of pings you to that, whatever, if it's an ET species, if it's an ET collective, it makes it so that you don't have the power within you anymore, and it's taking power away from your inner soul.
Right. So I see people online, I was feeling so depressed and sad, and so I just tuned into Ashtar and read some Sananda, and now I just feel the light within me, and I feel so much better now. Wow, people, stop it. Stop and think about what you're doing. I'd like to share my personal experience, what I've seen with my enhanced vision, or 5D goggles, as some people refer to them. I was in Austin, Texas, parked in my car, looking at holographic projections, a place where I like to have my ET encounters. And I did see a UFO craft land in the field, and out of it came extraterrestrial holograms that looked just like the Ashtar Command crew. And this time I wasn't exactly sure what Ashtar was, and so I was like, sweet Jesus, alien Jesus is here, and he's like, got my...
Jesus is here to save the day.
Yes, yeah. Jesus, the Messiah has relanded. God help us all. Amen. Anyway, so they got off, and during this time, there was 20 minutes of my life that were unaccounted for, so I'm pretty sure that I was abducted during that time. I'm not sure what they did to me, but I can remove my own implants, and I know I can remove them on a regular basis, so I assume they left something on me. Anyway, when I saw these things, when they captivated me and I started to understand, using my own brain, understanding what was happening to me, I realized this is not good. I wasn't scared, but I realized this is not a message and communication based on love and trust and giving. This is based on control, brainwashing, and like I said, mind control. And what happened when I finally told them, you're not welcome around me, get away, as I saw them disappearing into the distance, I saw them shapeshift into reptiles. Sorry to rain on some people's parade, but Lord Ashtar and all of his friends are a bunch of reptilians. Believe what you want to believe, but think about it. Think about the motivation, what motivation these things would have to show themselves to you as these wonderful blonde-haired, Pleiadian-looking star goddess-like creatures. because is anyone going to trust anything that looks like a reptile or a gray? And I'm not saying that reptiles and grays are good. Trust me, they've got their issues as well. But there are many benevolent extraterrestrial species that do look a little weird and scary and different, but people are going to have a hard time trusting them and accepting them because they don't align with our idea of like aesthetically pleasing.
Let me just ask you, you said that it didn't feel right. Can you give the people out there watching an idea of like how to resonate with like truth? And you said that when you saw this Ashtar Command, like part of you was excited at first and then it like conveyed. Did your sense of, oh, they're creepy change when you saw them shaped into reptiles, or did it change before that? So explain to us that process of like your inner guidance telling you, oh, this doesn't resonate with me.
They paralyzed me as I was gazing at them, and I was trying to communicate with them because I have a lot of experiences, and I tend to know when something resonates love or fear. But usually the benevolent ones, you know, they try to be funny. They'll crack a joke. They'll they'll use some type of sarcasm or humor to communicate with you. But in this case, it's almost like I was being drawn towards them and pulled in and sent into a trance. And I just remember sitting there in my vehicle, almost frozen, not being able to move. And when I was able to put myself back into my physical body and understand what was happening, that's when I was like, snap out of it and told them to go away. And I haven't had a problem with them since, but go ahead.
So I just want to warn people out there, if you're driving along a country road and you see a light that's off in the distance that's flashing and flashing and you don't seem to be closer to it, what's happening is that you're being entrained. Your brain is being entrained through this technology, and the way that it operates is it runs a shunt in your brain to stop your motor processes. So it's true technology that ETs use. Even our government has this technology now to make people paralyzed in fear, but it's not really a fear, it's stopping your autonomic nervous system from functioning.
Yes, and if you feel like this, like you can't function or you're having trouble doing things, you know, I recommend engaging in some grounding processes. You know, take a bath in baking soda, light some sage if you've got burning hair on the side. You can snap yourself out of it. You can fight your way out of it. You do have a right to, you know, your own three-dimensional physical body and to occupy it as your own. So, you know, no, you're not stuck in these types of situations.
Yeah, but it has happened to people that I know.
Oh, it happened. It's happened to me several times.
Through remote viewing, we know that the idea of, so Jesus is associated now with this Ashtar Command. And I'm sorry you had that experience about the production. We'll find out what happened at that point. But for the purposes of the show, we wanted to talk a little bit more about Sananda, the character called Sananda, as we know in church as Jesus Christ Superstar, or Jesus Christ Intergalactic Superstar. Through remote, so the idea of Ashtar is that the whole idea of Christianity really is that Jesus died on the cross for your sins. But with remote viewing, we have RV, Jesus' death, and he didn't actually die. And so that's problematic for the entire religious system that they have.
Right, and well, we all live forever because, you know, energy isn't created or destroyed, only changes forms. I guess that's as most people understand it. But in some ways, this is actually true. You know, there's no beginning or end. There's just transformation and transgression and whatnot. So probably I would agree with your remote viewing.
His character, his avatar, his person body, his human body didn't actually die. There was someone that was murdered on the cross, somebody else, but it wasn't him. It was not him. It was a different guy. They drugged him. We'll talk about that at the time. But they drugged the guy and then pretended he was Jesus, because not everybody knew everybody back in, like, you know, 200 AD, 100 AD, or 0 AD. Our entire calendar system is based on Jesus' death, and it's kind of a lie because if he didn't actually die, and somebody else died in his name.
And so now we're seeing images. You know, there's Jesus Christ, you know, the Christian image. There's Lord Sananda that has the long brown hair, and then there's Lord Ashtar who has the blondish Pleiadian or Nordic looking hair. You know, and usually, you know, it looks like this, like in the picture. It's like this dude with like the blonde hair, and he's going like this.
His hand is glowing at you. And now Ashtar Command is allegedly composed of millions of spaceships under the direction of Intergalactic Jesus, claiming that we are universal ambassadors of peace, peacemakers, and peacekeepers in your world. I advise everybody, if you haven't read, there's a website, it's called bibliocapleiades.net. You can Google that and you probably find it, or we can put it in the show notes. They've got everything about Ashtar Command and everything about everything. It's almost like a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy on Earth about everything eclectic you ever wanted to know about. And that's where I got this message of the Ashtar Command. They have dozens and dozens of pages on it. But
my personal viewpoint also, and not to go off on tangent, but my personal viewpoint is that the character that identifies itself as Lucifer / Satan / Azazel / whatever else he calls himself is the same thing as Lord Sananda, is the same thing as Jesus Christ, is the same thing as Lord Ashtar. Because put yourself, if you wanted to have control over everything, what would you have to appeal to all different types of people? You have to appeal to the people who want to do good and live in peace, but you also have to appeal to the people who are bad and create destruction. So Satan or Azazel and Lucifer here with the horns, like, we're just going to go against everything and defy everything and negativity, and like, we're going to teach people lessons. And then you've got on the other extreme, Lord Ashtar Sananda, who's like, everything is peace, there is no war, peace, love, and harmony. Well, it's all the same thing.
Yeah, how do we get the people that aren't under that rug of all the other religions? Let's create this other fictitious religion of like the UFO cult people. So to try and get them like pulled in, so that we have like a whole envelope around this planet of control.
Right, so that's where this alien Jesus came from, or Lord Ashtar Command. So if anyone wants to talk more about this, feel free to contact either Todd or I. Not that we're done by any means, but I know some of you guys may have questions or want to disagree, and feel free to shoot us an email, through the YouTube page or the Facebook page.
Yes. You talked about the different faces of Jesus and the different faces of Ashtar Command, Lord Sananda, Muslim Allah, the Mohamed prophet.
Sure.
These are all, it could be one entity, but they could be one entity operating multiple bodies at once, multiple avatars at once. Because imagine like you're playing a video game, right? You can have different characters, you can have different hoods that you wear in like your World of Warcraft or whatever you kids are playing today. And
I wouldn't know about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's a game. Is that still a game? I'm sorry, I don't know games, but I don't use computers much. I don't really know anything about it. I've heard that's a game people play. But you wear a different mask when you go into battle. This avatar, this creation, this ET, who we'll discuss more and unwrap the layers of, is wearing different masks in different religions to control our planet in this backwards corner of the Milky Way.
And he's doing it from all angles. So, he's doing it, or it's doing it, with the intent of putting people against each other and creating war and destruction and anger and hate. Because one group is over here worshiping Jesus, and the other group is Sananda, and the other group's worshiping the devil, and the other group's worshiping Allah. Where really it's all the same artificial intelligence, and it's like, oh, look what I've done, they all hate each other, boom, nuclear war, everything's destroyed,
Yeah, when you hit both factions or factions against, you just create war, you create chaos, you create like an unease, and it's sad, it's terrible that these cultures or these institutions are so diabolically evil at their core. Like you look at the Christian church and how just sickening it is, even though we just had this praise of the Lord Poop that came over from last year. Yeah, we talked about that last week, but this craze, this mania about him, but isn't this the same, like people have no recollection of memory. This is the same institution that like had this giant pedophilia ring 10 years ago.
Right, and so I want to stop you for a second because you used the word evil to describe Christianity. And I would caution against using the word evil to describe a religion. To me, the word evil should be used to describe things that are deceitful or untruthful, lying, or half-truths, as we said last week.
Okay.
And not to say that the Christian religion hasn't done that, but I don't want people to look at us and say, they're evil because you call us evil, because then it's defeating our whole purpose of exposing really what is evil, which is the things that are lying to everybody, that's making everybody call everybody else evil.
Yeah, if I said that about Christianity, I apologize. I was talking about the institution of the church, which I think is slightly rotten.
Yes.
But it's the people that are there, the people that are using this. I think that, if you do good for people, if you do good for your common man, the tenets of the religion are okay. But when you start putting them in practice and manipulating other people, making other people feel like they don't have a say in what is justifiably their own feelings, that's when I disagree with your religious aspects.
Right, and John Red, or Daraj Nabilas, who was supposed to come on and discuss this with today, one of the awesome quotes that I remember him posting on Facebook was, he who uses half-truths to manipulate is a master of destruction. And I really.
Can you say that again?
This is almost the right quote, but it says, "He who uses half-truths as a means to manipulate is a master of destruction." Because really, if you think about it, you know, what is a half-truth, right? You tell somebody something that they can relate to and that's partially true, yet they're really hiding the key factors of truth here. But people latch onto it because they resonate well with it. But really, the idea behind it is to create destruction and war and hatred.
So how do people out there get to their own inner sense of truth by not following channeled messages and by not adhering to whatever dogmatic religious principles that are out there?
Such a good question, and I would caution people that, you know, if you engage in a lot of channeling or too much channeling, that sometimes you can get drawn into this world that's so far away from our world that you lose touch with reality. And so I would urge people to, you know, spend time outside every day, breathe fresh air, interact with others, call your mom and dad, play with a dog, do something. But you cannot spend your entire life indoors channeling other dimensions, because you have to stay in touch, and you have to stay grounded, because whether you like it or not, we are here in the third dimension and we do have to live here. And I think that if people can keep perspective a little bit and stay grounded and in touch with what's going on here and what's going on in the outside world, it will be easier to tell when you do travel off into the other dimensions, you know, what's what.
I'll just explain from my point of view, kind of what I was trying to help hopefully you get at, is that to resonate with different levels of truth is your own inner feeling. And if I'm reading something and it feels rough, this is the only way I can describe it. If it feels like it has a rough texture like sandpaper, that's even too descriptive. But if it's rough, I know that it's untrue, or that it's trying to point me in a different direction. And if something is smooth when I'm reading it, then I know that it resonates as truth with me. It feels positive, it feels uplifting.
Right, and I like that too. Also, anything that makes you feel scared, you don't have to do. You should never feel scared, guys. If something resonates fear and it makes you
like the Guru.
Oh, like Nibiru, yeah, absolutely. So I read something else. Yeah, there was another article that there's something else coming on October 22nd. And pretty much now, it was on Facebook yesterday, and we're getting to the point now where it's every few days. You know, there's these new. I love it. Disclosed TV does this. So you know that Facebook.
Yeah.
You know, people's NASA, official NASA says that on October 22nd, a celestial object could, you know, be on an imminent collision course.
It's probably not true.
It's probably not true. But if you do resonate that fear energy, it does, you know, set off that energetic beacon that I refer to so many times that attracts or that opens those wormholes to other dimensions where the more destructive or leech-like entities creep into our, you know, to our space here.
Is there a way? So that's scary. Is there a way? We talked about this a little bit last week, but I'd like to have the people that are watching now understand. Is there a way to like purify your own space that you're in and create a buffer zone around your physical avatar that we're all living in to make sure that those types of entities or nefarious entities don't creep into you and latch onto you and draw your energy?
So there's a couple things we can do. The first thing, we're going to start from the most simplest, and we'll go into a couple complicated ones. Simplest ones is love your friends, love your dog, be grateful for what you have, and live in the moment, right? So every moment that I'm here, so I can stop and smell the coffee that's brewing, or look at how cute my dog is sleeping, or just be, man, it's awesome that I have this house and roof over my head. And that prevents me from letting in ideas of what's going to happen in an hour, what's going to happen in 2 hours, what's going to happen next week, what's going to happen. If you can live in the moment and appreciate what's awesome that's going on right now, even if it's something really, really simple, that alone will clean your space. So there's one simple solution. Another solution is quit reading all the shit. Just quit paying attention to it. I know it's hard, but the less attention you give it, the less it will circulate, and then hopefully eventually it will go away. Probably won't go away, but the less attention you give these fear-mongering ideas.
Stop clicking, stop reposting.
Right.
If anyone ever links to Before It's News, unfriend them. Just stop talking to them altogether.
Yeah, I mean, in these types of things, disclosed TV, all these, you know, Planet X is coming, the viewers coming, these type of things. And I think the other thing Todd was referring to is I have an awesome meditation that I do that kind of seals the area around me. And here's how it works. This is probably what you want me to repeat. you know, when I'm feeling a little anxious or scared or unable to concentrate on being in the moment, I close my eyes just like this, and I feel my heart in my chest, and I feel that my heart is this big green apple glowing thing, literally like a glowing green. And as I start to breathe in my nose, out my mouth deeply, I feel that the heart is glowing brighter and brighter and brighter. And within 30 seconds, I can feel that my heart is glowing so bright green that my entire body is radiating green. And then what I try to do is extend this green glowing radiation through my entire home. And so that I feel that the entire home is radiating bright green, so bright. And slowly I try to extend this to where in about 15 to 20 minutes, the entire city of Austin, Texas, where I live, is also glowing bright green. And it's this beautiful green, protective, healing energy that's surrounding me. It vibrates on such a high frequency that nothing destructive or fear-mongering or mean, I know, will come into it. And, you know, it'd be nice to be able to say I could keep this going at all times, forever and ever. But, you know, life happens, things happen, and sometimes these, you know, these meditative, protective auras get penetrated. But no worries, we just build it right over again. I feel calm now.
Yeah, I feel amazingly calm. My shirt was red before you started that, and now look at it. Now it's green.
I got it.
We'll edit that in post. No, but that is an amazing meditation. And again, if you feel like something is stressing you out, just try to remember that Tracy just went through, and try to visualize that in your mind and project it to the people around you. And I feel that when you project green into people's minds, even animals, I've been walking along a street and a dog will start barking at me, and if I mentally project green into the animal's mind, it will stop barking. Green
is a very healing and calming energy if you know how to use it right.
Yeah, it's amazing. I would not believe you, but I've done that. Try that also when you're having trouble with people or trouble with animals. Resonate with that color.
I agree. Hope you guys enjoyed it.
Yeah, I hope you guys did too. We're going to take a commercial break, but we don't have commercials anymore. We don't need to pay anybody, so we don't need to do that. I wanted to talk a little bit about Merlin, first of all, before we get on to Osho.
Okay, let's do Merlin.
Can you tell me a little bit about what you know about Merlin? And I'll go and tell you like what I decided I learned about Merlin after doing RV sessions on him.
Sure. So when I first, in the earlier stages of my awakening, when I started looking into the occult and magic, I was very kind of interested in paganism and occult and magic and the star with the circle around it and the upside down star. And I was really like, wow, like, you know, magic, like that'd be so cool if you could just, you know, brew stuff and like make magic potions and then hocus pocus and cast spells and, you know, witch and woman, you know, that type of stuff.
Yeah. I want to do that. Everybody out there wants to do that. They just want to, you know, make energy balls and throw them at people.
Well, yeah, and even
do little chants.
Yeah, chants and spells and love spells and reverse love spells and all these things. Curses and whatever. And so, you know, I had this pendulum that I would play with, and it would spell things out for me. And when I was playing with it, I spelled out the name Merlin. I think we've got a visitor.
Oh, we have a guest. Oh, hi, Gage. Oh.
See, my dog goes to Todd.
How are you?
Oh,
you're great. Yes, you're a good boy.
Good boy. Oh. This is Gage, guys. This is Gage, the raging pit bull. You can tell he's very mean. But so the pendulum actually spelled out Merlin.
Really?
Yes. The pendulum used.
What were you asking? Do you remember what you were divining at the point?
Nothing. I just wanted to communicate with something. I said, somebody come to communicate with me, teach me how to learn, and so I would hold it, and it would. This pendulum it still is crazy. I've cleansed it, and I use it for better things now, but. It spelled out, you know, M-E, and I was like, what in the world is Merlin? At that point, I didn't know what Merlin was.
You didn't know Merlin?
Hey, my awakening happened fast.
How had you never known?
Look,
like,
I was in a traumatic situation, bam, nervous breakdown.
Remember what's Excalibur?
I didn't know what Merlin was. I knew what weightlifting was and going to the gym and taking Manning and all this stuff.
Yes.
Good dog. But anyway, so I looked up, you know, what is Merlin, and I found, you know, a piece like this great, like occult, magical You know, and I was like, ooh, sweet, like something from like another dimension has come to me to teach me about magic. And I was very excited. And so Merlin started to mess with my pendulum. And of course, I didn't get any of this on video or no one saw it, but the pendulum, it would be swinging and it would literally, it would levitate and hold itself up in the air. So
what?
Yes, it did. The pendulum.
It did what? Like?
I would use the pendulum, and Merlin would be messing with the pendulum, and it would swing up, and it would just stay up, and it would just go like this, and it would go in circles, and it would stay up.
For how many seconds are we talking about?
At least like 3 or 4 seconds.
Whoa!
And then, if I could say, I would tell like Merlin, stop the pendulum, and it would just come to a dead stop and just go like that and stop. So Merlin is very magical. Whatever it is, it does represent like the occult and the Wiccans and magic and all these beautiful things. But what I learned is that it has some sinister intentions behind it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very sinister intentions, because it had convinced me to do some things that I knew weren't the right thing to do, and it had told me some things that deep down inside I knew weren't true. But because it was Merlin and because it was coming from another place, because it made the pendulum, it had bells and whistles attached to it. That's the thing. And I was like, man, this thing has bells and whistles. It was like, you know, changing water and wine type of thing with my pendulum. And so I believed it. But luckily I got out before anything really bad happened.
Wow. That is remarkable. So I can tell you, I did a remote viewing session project years ago on Merlin, and I can tell you that Merlin is a real entity. Merlin is presently alive. Merlin is or was not a singular entity, but a particular class of off-worlder that visits Earth from time to time. So he has this. He has 2 different faces too. One of them, he looks like a shaggy, like Sasquatch, but a thin Sasquatch.
I know he's thin.
Yeah, and then the other one, he looks like sort of an insectoid gray with like a long chin and a face. But when he presents himself here on Earth, he doesn't look like this, because they can make themselves look like anything.
Right. He looks like that thing from the movie that goes, "Thou shalt not pass." Oh, Gandalf.
Yes.
Yeah, he looks kind of like that, right?
He's like
And
hairy.
also gray.
Yeah, he's very hairy. He or it, I should call him it, because I don't know what sex it is, or if they even have sexes on his planet where he's from. But the things that he's interested in here, we got another idea that came through really strongly, oddly, was the idea of that it was focused on the area of London. And there's a lot of...
Like Jack the Ripper?
It's a different aspect than Jack the Ripper, but it was associated with London on Earth, so it's an idea that came through. We can look at different types of symbology that they have that has grown in power over the last millennia, because they've used and had this idea of Merlin. So it's probably easier for him to like pinpoint the idea and then transport there. It's also associated with the ideas of transportation. It has a device that transfers energy or matter very quickly. It's like a tube. All the remote viewers associated with this project drew aspects of this tube, and if anybody's interested, I can send you an email of what these things look like.
Seriously, I saw that. Like with my 5D goggles thing, when Merlin would visit. I know this sounds so dorky. I'm just gonna say it. Okay, so it looks like it came through one of those things from Star Trek. It's like one of those.
A transporter beam.
Like a transporter beam, like a beam thing, and then it would like go like it would like close around and like and then it would go and then like the whole thing would disappear.
Did it have that sound? We didn't get that sound in the data, but it's exactly like that.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a tubular
yes,
technology, amazing technology, far beyond anything we understand, but we can draw it, we can sketch it with our V. This entity causes, observes, or directly is exploring a possibility of a geological event that happened in a watery environment at a great depth, with direct involvement of humans in a very intense energy. So kind of ties into what we were talking about last show on the great depth of a city that's below the sea. So when you look at this aspect of Merlin and the Lady of the Lake, there are parallels there that really come close to this civilization that still is under our oceans.
And I can't help but like my intuitive gifts are when I think about look at this boy. When I think about Merlin, I can't help but think about aquatic references and something that swims and something that has the ability to exist underwater and on Earth. I don't know where I get that from because I'm really not very well read as times. my information all comes from the universe and has just been downloaded into my brain and is based on experience. So I'm very unaffected in that way. But when I think about Merlin, I don't know why I have this parallel in my mind that just automatically goes to the ocean.
Yeah, and it's possible that we have 3 sketches of what Merlin looks like. None of them are human. 2 of them are insectoid ETs. One of them is like a shaggy animal. And it's possible that the shaggy sketch is a cloak that Merlin is wearing, and that's why it looks ragged and hairy, is because of someone that is associated with living under the sea in the water.
Right, so moral of the story, again, is that not everything is what it looks like. So now we talked about, Sananda having multiple faces and costumes. Merlin, we have multiple descriptions and costumes. So just because you see a picture of something and it's aesthetically pleasing to you, that does not mean that it's something that you can trust. You cannot base your judgment of multidimensional entities based on your 3-dimensional perception of their beauty. Big mistake, guys, big mistake.
Yeah, and so there is, again, a technology associated with these entities, whether it's a transportation technology, whether it's a technology that can shunt your nervous system, make you stop doing whatever you're doing, or even to make you receive a message, which is like a channeled idea or like a concept of, I need to help all 144,000 people on Earth achieve a state of 5D enlightenment.
Right.
These are technologies that are coming through. People don't understand this.
But they're technologies, and I've said it a million times, and I'm going to keep repeating it, that are responding to energetic beacons that are set off by your brain. These energetic beacons are on your brain, and they are sending out signals to artificial intelligent extraterrestrial creations like Merlin, like Sananda. For example, the beacon that says, I'm lonely and empty inside and don't have anybody, so I just have this need to help save the world.
I think 70% of my friends on Facebook post that same message every week.
With
I'm sad and lonely.
Right.
Help me, respond to me, look at me. Yeah, this is my food I ate today. I don't care.
Right, but those types of energetic beacons, they attract, these things, like I said, like Merlin, like Sananda. Oh, look, there is one going off of somebody who wants to be one of the 144,000. Let's get him his brain and mind control it, or him or her. That's how these things work, guys. It's AI. It's artificial intelligence. And so if you set your brain to set off the beacon of, I'm cautious, I don't trust easily, I'm introspective, I live in the moment, these things will start to leave you alone. They really will. If they know you're not going to feed their energy and help spread it, then they don't want to mess with you anyway.
But you still need to recognize that it has a pattern of resonance with you and dissociate from that. And that is why the healing and the cleansing meditation that Tracy mentioned earlier was very helpful, because you can do it if you feel negativity associated with you or attracted to you.
Another thing you can do, which we can do since we're past the halfway point, is light some sage, which I like to do while we're talking about this stuff, because it kind of keeps a clean environment going here. This is white sage, guys. We're burning here tonight.
Can you explain what the sage does for people?
Sure. So people refer to burning sage as, some people call it smudging.
Right, I heard of that.
Right. So some people think that it welcomes in multi-dimensional entities, so you can kind of be in communication, and then others believe that it cleanses the area so that they'll leave. I believe that it creates a kind of a warm and welcoming environment in alignment with how you want it to be. So that if we're burning sage here and we're saying we're welcoming only entities of love and truth. We're not going to say love and light, because, we deal with 50 shades of gray.
Oh, it smells better.
It does smell good, doesn't it? And it does smell
Light
nice.
sage at home, so you can enjoy it with us.
Yes, it is very nice. But so we're discussing today false prophets. So when we burn sage, the false prophets are going to be around us. We're going to be in touch with the truth when we burn the sage.
Yeah, the reason I call them falsetto prophets is because they preach this idea of, sexual purification.
Sure.
And yet, children, if you're in the room, please turn away. Wanted to bring up the idea now of Osho, a prophet who was born 1931, lived to 1990. He was actually born Chandra Mohan Jain. He wrote over 600 books and talked to whoever would listen, sort of in India.
He kind of looks like Osama bin Laden. Sorry, just saying.
An older Osama, like Osama's grandfather, perhaps. Yeah. We know what happened to Osama bin Laden through RV. Actually buried at sea. That is true. He is actually buried at sea. True facts.
May you rest in peace. Whatever.
Yeah, rest in peace, like everyone else who is resting in peace. But I don't know a lot about this Osho guy, and unfortunately, Jared is in French, can't join us, but you did some research on him, you know a little bit more about him, sort of the things that he did, which were not kosher, if you will.
Well, here's what I don't like about Osho. People turn to Osho for this sense of peaceful meditation and connection with nature and the earth and what people refer to as Gaia and kind of connecting with the natural side of things when they're stressed or anxious or need somewhere to go. And again, it's just another controlling artificial intelligence wearing a false face, trying to get to people who are wounded.
So you think that Osho, this guy, who, if you're not familiar with him, he was like almost a perverted sex magician, I would say.
Right.
On the lines of like Crowley, who I used to study a lot of Crowley, but he was kind of a freak. And Osho, who was claimed to be divine, had these like rogue elements in him of promiscuity, even to the point of like debauchery at the retreats that he would have, right?
I've read so little of Osho because the very first person who referred me to read Osho was a psychic that I spoke with about, I guess, I don't know, it was well over a year ago. And they said, Tracy, you need to go onto the internet because Osho has a message for you.
Were they influenced by Osho? This is a year ago? He was dead in 1990.
No, but the spirit of Osho.
Okay.
No.
The spirit of Osho still lives on, watch out.
Oh, no. You know how like people say your grandmother has a message or something?
Yeah.
So this psychic had said, Tracy, you need to go onto the internet because I believe Osho has a message for you. So you need to go look up one of his meditations or teachings or something because it was going to resonate with something else.
Can you be less specific, please?
Yeah, right. Can you be less specific?
Just Google this. Go to Wikipedia, forget it.
Right. So I did what the psychic said because I like talking to different psychic people and seeing what they have to say about me and the world and life.
Okay.
And so I listened to her and I said, okay, I'm going to go to YouTube. I'm going to type in Osho meditation because that's what she said. The first thing that comes up that I'm drawn to, that's the one I'm supposed to hear.
Okay.
And so when I opened it and it started talking about I am the divine this, the master this, I was like, right away, because this was already after the Merlin thing had happened. And so I started picking up speed when it came to recognizing
right.
The false prophets and whatnot. And I can tell you guys, if something refers to itself as a god or wants you to worship it or calls itself some type of master or something, just tell it to go bye-bye.
Yeah.
That's my advice.
It's great advice, I think. And thank you, Gage. Gage just left, everybody.
He's such a good
He
boy.
wants to come back. Yeah. I agree. If you have a message of someone that says, I am divine, worship me, that's never resonated with me. Whether it's Jesus, whether it's ETs, whether it's Buddha, or anything. It just doesn't. Yeah, I went to my chiropractor. He missed one crack, so that's why I had to do that. And it's just it resonates as like any monotheistic religion, any polytheistic religion. It just resonates as like you're externalizing your own godhood. Don't do that. You're gods among yourselves. You don't need to worship something that tells you it's a god.
Right, and I know that Todd is going to hate this, but I have to say anyway, because it might be like the one smart thing that George Norrie's ever said.
George Snorri on Coast to Christ AM said what?
Okay, so Todd doesn't like George Norrie. George Norrie is affected, and not everything that's on there is good, but one thing that I do like, that he's talked about before, is God in terms of big G and little g. So he refers to big G God.
Can I use a little G for Norrie? George Norrie? Can I make
Sure, we can call him Little George. Let's call him Little George.
Little George.
Sure, I like that.
Yeah.
So what does he call October? It's like Ghost-tober or something like that.
Coast to Christ AM calls it Ghost to Ghost AM.
Oh, Ghost to Ghost.
When he stole that from Art Bell originally, everything he does, he stole from Art Bell.
Well noted. But I still like this analogy he makes of big G and little g. So he refers to big G as what people refer to as God or the creator or the universal energy or the source.
Yeah.
And then little g is everything else underneath it. So there's like, the Anunnaki gods, and then there's like, all these things that call themselves gods, Sananda, Christ, Buddha, all these things. And so those are all the little g's. And so there is a distinction when you talk about God in a universal sense, because some people don't even like the word God. I like the word God because it helps me kind of like relate to, whatever is responsible for all of this, universal energy, the source energy.
It was an experiment. We know the ETs that created the universe.
But that's little God. That's little G.
Well, they created the universe, and so they had some.
I'm talking about whatever's responsible for creating the big universe, like for just everything. So it's the source energy, the universal energy, the big daddy. That's big G.
It's not daddy because it's a female.
Actually,
the energy of the universe is female.
Actually,
I want
that's true.
everyone to know that the energy, the godhood of the universe is a divine feminine energy.
And people do call it male energy, but it is a female energy. And
Yeah.
I do agree with that, Todd. But with regards to big G and little G are all these things running around, doing genetic mutations, making different species and races and Anunnakis and Jesus and Sananda and all this. Those are all the little G's. Don't worship little G's. That's what my whole point of saying this is. Don't worship little G's. If you want to worship anything, worship the source energy. Worship the universe. Worship. Be grateful for everything that's around here. But don't worship the little G's. That was my point.
So little George, also says that he does remote viewing, and George has never done remote viewing in his life. He has no idea what that word even means.
Todd doesn't like George Norris.
I don't like George Snorri, but he doesn't know what he doesn't listen to his guests. It's almost like he's reading a book when he has guests on, and he has no idea what they're talking about.
This happens actually. This does happen. Last week I told Todd, I said, you gotta listen to this, because I was listening. There's nothing else on the radio sometimes when I'm driving around at night, because I am a night owl. I said, you gotta hear this guy. And he was 3 sheets to the wind, or maybe 5 sheets to the wind, and he couldn't finish a sentence. Not George Norris, but the guest.
No way.
And they just cut him off. Oh, sorry, we lost him. It was funny.
They're not vetting their guests very well. It's sad. There's nothing really like this show on the radio, though. There's nothing that really talks about.
We're the best. I mean, we just should go platinum right away.
There's nothing that talks about extraterrestrial entities as like a certitude. I think that even things like Coast to Christ AM are still caught in their kindergarten shoes of trying to say, well, maybe there's ETs out there. Has anyone looked at the stars lately? Yes, there are ETs out there. Let me be the first to assertively, positively say, yes, there are ETs out there. Yes, we have remote viewing data on them. And yes, we know people who have talked to them personally and in their head. They're sitting on the show. You got to get that anywhere else.
Oh, I love talking to ETs. My good friend Nico, my Arcturian surgeon who helps. But this is not on the agenda. But one other thing what we forgot to put on there is the show Ancient Aliens.
I forgot to wear my hair up high. Yeah,
yes.
I should have done,
So, the Ancient Aliens, could it be that?
Yeah, never gives you an answer.
They never say anything. They just say, could it be that the people that were helping the ancient Egyptians build the pyramids were in fact extraterrestrials? Could it be? Where he'll say, is it possible that? All they do the entire show is asking questions, but they don't say anything.
How is that on the History Channel? What happened to the History Channel that now it's just ETs and Hitler?
Oh, well, let me explain to you that. So the History Channel is actually the corporation that owns the History Channel, like History Channel 2, and History Channel 2 is where these shows are, is largely controlled by the Rothschild Group.
Really?
Yes.
So the agendas that they're putting forth are sort of to get you to stop your own independent free thought and to get you just to believe that every single thing out there is ETs.
Well, the idea is that people are starting to ask questions, so they have to respond in a half-truth kind of way.
Yeah.
So there has to be something out there on main TV before people like us get out there and just kind of open our mouths way too wide. But at least Ancient Aliens is saying things like, could it be, or is it possible that?
What they never say is that
anything good. No,
what they never say is that, yes, humans created this 70,000 years ago, 80,000 years ago. Yes, there was an advanced human civilization 100,000 years ago, because they don't want you thinking that. They just want everything attributed to extraterrestrial intelligence. They never want to let you think that everything you know about history is wrong to the point that it was actually humans or older humans that did this stuff.
That's one possible interpretation. But another thing that they do too is they edit what their guests have to say, because they have had some very highly credible names as guests on Ancient Aliens. One of which he's a Russian. His name was Dr. something Austerovich or Smerovich, something. I apologize for not remembering the name. Anyway, he's done extensive research on the pyramids in Bolivia and South America and some of the stones that they found down there. And I actually went to a lecture that he gave because I just, and this was in Houston, and I heard him talk about his theories on aliens and extraterrestrials and these pyramids, which, by the way, are the exact same mathematical dimensions as the ones in Egypt, the ones in Bolivia.
Yes.
And so he was on ancient aliens, and they cut off all the good stuff. You know, they asked him, is it possible? But they never let him say yes. They never let him say his theory on there. They just flash his name there, flash his picture for a few seconds and say, could it be, type of thing. So
let us add
recognize the half-truth.
Yeah, again, great idea. Yeah, recognize the half-truths. And when you're getting this information, don't just like sit there and eat the pablum. Don't just be spoon-fed this conspiratorial nonsense. Look to your heart and try and find out what's real, because it's probably a combination not just of it was all ETs, but it was probably a lot of humans back then who had higher civilization, higher technology civilization than we do today, plus ETs, plus maybe something else.
And one other piece of current events that I want to throw in here while we're talking about ancient aliens is yesterday even my mom sent me the copy of this article where people are saying huge structure, like NASA has found it could be an alien structure. You know, have you seen that?
Where is that? No.
It's the Kepler or whatever found it. You haven't seen this news article. It's been going around Facebook a lot. This is 2 or 3 days old.
I don't
anyway,
use Facebook.
So my mom sent me this link, and I'm sure the viewers, you guys know what I'm talking about. But the link was basically, it said foxnews.com/ and the minute I saw Fox News, I was like, good God.
We're running long. I just want to let our
so we're going to wrap this up. But anyway, look at the source, guys, because Fox News and CNN and NBC and ABC are all in Rothschild controlled also. So if it's coming from them, you know that it's something that they want you to see. That's their Band-Aid on a bullet wound type of thing for you guys not to know the real truth. So be careful.
Let's put a Band-Aid on that tourniquet.
Right.
So let's tell a little bit, folks, let's wrap it up and let them know what you do, like in your day life, what I do in my day life, what we do elsewhere besides this VOTO radio show. Radio show.
VOTO TV. I'm Tracy Lee, psychic surgeon and distance healer. I work on people who are sick or hurt. I go like this and people get well. It's true though. I've even worked on Todd's teeth. I've worked on orthopedic injuries. I've worked on people with cancer. Worked on various illnesses like the flu, candida, thyroid conditions, circulation issues, blood pressure. I love healing, and my modalities are astral travel, extraterrestrial health, and spirit animals. I've got an awesome spirit, white spirit snake named Maxwell. He is the bomb. He can deliver any medication that there is even possibly fathomable. And Meepo, the Arcturian surgeon, he does surgery you won't even feel a thing, or an anesthesiologist. So that's what I do. And I travel around the world, 3.3 seconds or less, anywhere in the world I can be.
How can people find your healing?
They can find me by looking up Zetaline Healing. So that's ZETALINE, and then the word healing. And if you just type that in, all my stuff comes up on the internet. So.
Okay, super.
Super duper.
How about me?
What about you?
Oh yeah, so during the day, I sell giant 3D printers. They're giant printers. They print anything you can imagine. And it's not dorky, it's awesome. So it's like, the printer's like, I should bring it in. It's literally like as big as a person. It prints in 8 cubic feet, and I sell those all around the world. But I also, at night, I do remote viewing. And so I can like set up a session, I have a training. I've been training people on how to do remote viewing probably for the last 4 years, I think. We set up seminars, like weekend seminars, people can sign up. I also find things for people. Lost objects, anything on Earth. Healing sessions, medical sessions, so I can tell you what's wrong with you, then pass it on to Tracy. Tracy can help you. My website is remoteviewit.com, and you can find me there. You can send me messages there. You can see some of my other RV session data there. Maybe we'll even post some of the sessions about, or some of the pictures from what we talked about with RV tonight.
Sure.
So people can see that in like an off link. I guess that's it.
I guess that is it.
Hey.
But, we'll be back. We'll be back next week. We're going to see if we can maybe get Jared to come back on. Or
yes, hope he's feeling better.
Hope he is, Jared. If you're watching, we hope you are feeling better. And we'll be with you every Friday, and eventually, hopefully, even more often than every Friday. And please share this video, guys. If you think that you're one of the 144,000 souls, you're wrong, because everybody's one of them. Everybody can ascend. Everybody can increase their vibrational level. You don't have to worry about whether you're going to be beamed up or not. This is what they're telling people, that you have to ascend to the fifth dimension.
It's the same thing Christianity tells you.
Otherwise, you're not going to be beamed up. Okay, you have to worship Jesus. Otherwise, you're not going to heaven. You have to increase vibrations. You're not going to be beamed up. How can you guys not see it's the same darn thing? It's the same thing. Wake up! VOTO radio.
VOTO radio.
Signing off.
TV.
Sayonara, baby.